Well, it was a tough old weekend for South African teams results-wise, but one of the major talking points after Friday and Saturday's matches, and even the late one that the Southern Kings played in Argentina, was just how the South African teams were dominated at the breakdown. So we decided to get somebody who knows all about that area, and his area of expertise. We don't have subtitles for you. He is a Scotsman. He's gotten tired of Boerewors and has re-opted for a little bit of haggis. Richie Gray joining us on the line on Skype from Scotland. Awesome to talk to you, my friend. Welcome to TMO.
No, listen, thanks guys for the invite. It's great to speak to you all, and obviously, as you've said already, I might have to run subtitles under this. I'm a little bit excited, but just take it nice and easy, and hopefully I can explain the ins and outs of a very difficult area.
Wonderful, Richie. Just speak a little bit slowly for us. I'm sure we'll get through it all right. But first things first, and before we talk about the South African teams, what have you been up to? Because the last time I saw you, you were obviously involved with the Springboks. You've since gone back to Scotland. What's happening?
Yeah, well, obviously the World Cup came to an end, and then I was back down in November to work with the Springbok team, who I've been involved with for the last 3 years. So pretty much worked on all their contact and collision work through November. Then back to Scotland in December. Then I signed a contract with my own country through the Six Nations, which I enjoyed. That came to an end a few weeks back, and then after that, I've been down in France working with Toulouse, and I've been back in Scotland for the last 2 weeks. So it's been pretty busy times, and I'm heading to America on Friday to work in NFL, believe it or not. So
wow.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's absolutely fantastic, and we're really grateful that you didn't wear a kilt tonight. Richie, I know you've been keeping abreast with the South African... Oh, I think he is. I know you've been keeping abreast with the Super Rugby and the way the South African teams have gone. You've spoken about the need to focus more, obviously, on the breakdown, and it just looks like the local teams, bar the Vodacom Bulls last weekend, couldn't cope with the physicality on the ground.
No, I think in some ways... First and foremost, Super Rugby has always been different to me. I think it's a different mindset. There's the ball's flat, it's moved around a lot more. You know, there's a lot more opportunities, I think, for turnovers, especially as the game develops. In that last 15-20 minutes, I'm sure the stats there are incredibly high. So it is a different type of game to Test match rugby, completely different. I think if you look at the stats from the back of Super Rugby games week in, week out, you'll find it'll be 14 turnovers to 10, it'll be 18 turnovers to 9. It's very, very high. Whereas if you look in Test match rugby, it's more 5-3, it's 4-1, 6-2. So I think the whole game's just different, far quicker. The work rate on and off the ball. I think the key thing's detail for me, and you know, you have to continue training it. If you come off it at all, I've found, in my own opinion, sometimes players can regress very quickly, so you've just got to keep on that. But it's then about how you fit that in to your weekly schedule, especially when you're travelling as well.
Well, I also know that trends have changed and continue to do so in world rugby. You talk about the fact that the South is very different to the North. Is there a global trend? We saw the Wallabies, for instance, at the World Cup go in with 2 ball winners and they lose trio. It didn't seem to catch on to the other teams. Is there a trend? Are there changes? Or do we expect that every player from 1 to 15 in the starting lineup is able to do what they need to do at the breakdown, Richie?
Yeah, I'm a great believer in that. I remember when I first came to South Africa 3 years ago, and when you read reports and papers, they just always talked about the fetcher, and I've never had that opinion. Every single player must be able to do the job. You must be a multi-purpose player. You must be able to pass off a left and right. You must have a step. You know, if we're going to evolve the game, we must create players that are multi-skilled, and in all the breakdown and collision work, that's absolutely key for me. So that's first and foremost, and then it's then how you get your blend right. You know, if you think that the Australians got this huge pat on the back for using Hooper and Pocock, but actually we'd done it the week before, I think, when we used Brousseau and Francois Lowe in the back row, which worked really well for us. So sometimes you've got to pick the right blend for the right game, and we were lucky, you know, over the 3 years I was involved with South African rugby with some phenomenal back row players. And then I suppose if you just look in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you know, I think Marcel Coetzee was heading the stats chart for steals for the Sharks, and then all of a sudden he gets a major injury, and a player like that you'll really, really miss. So, you know, when you get a good one, a Pocock, a McCaw, Francois Lowe, a Coetzee, you know, when you get a good stealer, they're worth their weight in gold, but you've got to use them properly.
Richie, it's Bob's over here. Just, mate.
Bob's.
I know I was going to try to say, give you my name, but it's okay. We'll leave you at that. Just to make sure that, especially for the viewers and just for the players, things that you focus on in terms of retaining and maintaining your position. What starts that breakdown dominance? Is it from the carry? Is it the players coming in? What should they be looking out for in terms of, do they clear bodies? Who is the threat and all of that? So if you just have to break down, just maintaining and retaining your position, what is the most important thing, especially for the man who's carrying the ball?
You've always got two sides to it, because you've got the attacking breakdown, you've got the defensive breakdown, so they're really a mirror image of each other. But for me, first and foremost, your detail is absolutely important. And I know this might sound quite simple, but coaches, in my opinion, sometimes overcomplicate it. It's about doing the simple things brilliantly and being able to do them, especially when fatigued. That's the key. And if you look at some of the Southern Hemisphere sides, you know, they can still do the detail, the body height, they can get their clearance right, they can get it's a one bullet, one kill mentality. You know, there's no wasted effort, and also you're not using up big numbers. The last thing you want to use is 4 or 5 players to recycle ball. You want to do it very, very accurately with 3 at the most. Sometimes in Super Rugby you can even do it with 2, depends if you're playing the ball off the ground. So there's a number of different strategies, but I think coming back to the point Bob's right at the start was you have to keep training the detail, because if you don't, I've found that if you come off it for a fortnight, within 2, 3, 4 weeks, players can go back to old habits. And remember, it's a difficult thing to train. You're asking players to play, you know, 6-10 centimetres off the ground, continually being accurate, staying on their feet, you know, not landing in that massive melee of bodies that we used to have. So we're trying to keep it as accurate as possible. So you have to train it.
Richie, it's Joel Stransky. I hope you're well, mate. Nice to see you. Nice to catch up.
You've never hit a ruck in your life, Joel. I don't think you ever hit a ruck in your life.
Richie, just so you know, I think what we're all referring to maybe at the moment is the Lions and how they got smoked on the attack ruck, where they got cleaned out. And maybe from your side, what advice would you give to them? Because I think we all look at it and we go, they never ploughed numbers in, the fools didn't go to the ball. But you've just said sometimes you can win the ruck with just 2 players or 3 players. What advice would you give to them in terms of maybe their decision making to say, how do we not lose the ball at the breakdown in this game of Super Rugby?
Yeah, I think, Joe, it's a good one, and I watched part of that game at the weekend, and I know Akers and the guys well, and they've actually got some great breakdown players. Defensive breakdown wise, the Lions have been excellent over the last 2 or 3 years. You know, turning ball over. I think in some ways it's back to sitting in that dressing room before you go out and saying, right, are we going to go for it here? Are we going to win this game 40 points to 32? So sometimes you just have to take the risks, and they can work for you or they can work against you. Now, this is what I think when I was saying back at the start, when we started the conversation, that Super Rugby mindset is slightly different from Test match rugby. But the bottom line is, you still don't want to be losing ball going forward, but if you run out of numbers, and obviously the Hurricanes' defence get it right, where they're maybe outnumbering you on certain rucks, especially wider out, it can be very, very difficult. So you've got 2 decisions here. You go all-out rugby, and you go for the 40 points to 32, or you try and always keep men around the ball, which, remember, when you've got huge phases of play, it then asks a bit about conditioning as well. So there's always a knock-on effect between skill and conditioning, and then doing it under fatigue.
Hi, Richard, it's March. Just speaking on the skills, are you happy with the technique that teams are using? Do you think that the technique is where South African teams are falling short?
I go back to what I've said already, Mutz. I think if it's given time in the week to train, it's a thing that you can maintain. The difficulty with Super Rugby, as we all know, it's week in, week out. It's an absolute war of attrition. And sometimes, you know, coaches, and we've all been there, have had to come back off the contact and the detail work maybe on that Monday, Tuesday, and just prepare more with defensive systems and attacking systems and keeping your team going. And remember, you've got your travel as well. So it's sometimes quite difficult to continually do it throughout the whole season. But there is ways of doing it. I think a lot of teams have now come away from that bone-on-bone contact on the Monday, Tuesday, because the one thing you'll understand as a coach is the best chance you've got to win in a game is to have your best team on the field. So you don't want to lose anybody early in the week, and especially when a lot of the Super Rugby guys are carrying injuries from week to week. So there is a difficulty there, but for me it's just going over detail, keeping it simple, measuring it is key, because there's no point in talking about it if you don't measure it, and just making sure that they keep the mindset of the player there and everyone knows their job.
Richie, I've just got one more question for you. I know we've discussed it, and I imagine the ruck is probably a symptom of a lot of things. What are you going to be doing with the NFL? I'm more interested about that.
I don't think he's allowed to tell us.
I'm going out now. I can tell you. I can tell you. I'm going out to work with Miami Dolphins for a week. We're just going to look at all the tackle area, all the collision area. I don't know if you've read in the press recently that NFL have had huge problems with concussion, player welfare, and now obviously the whole suing and litigation coming. Very similar to rugby union, actually. Both sports are in a similar situation when you look at concussion and impact injuries. So NFL are looking at going far more detail. Funnily enough, we've been speaking about it all night on all their contact work. So I'm going to be going out there for a week to work with their defensive coaches, and I think it's going to be great for both. I like to go to new places and learn and experience different coaches and different players, and so I'm really looking forward to it, and it's going to be a good week.
There's a question here, Richie, from one of our crew members in the back who wants to know who was the best at the breakdown when you worked with the Springboks. I think I know who you're going to say. Could be a young man who's based in the north right now.
You know something? It's an incredibly difficult thing to say, because I still remember steals that were gathered by players that you would never have thought was going to steal the ball. I remember Mornay Stain stole a ball against Australia.
That's a file for you. There you go.
Yeah, Jolie.
Mark Lambie stole one, but I wrote down here before I came on the show that for a coach to be able to coach a Dwayne, Marcel, Flo, Skulk, Rousseau, you had Willem, you had Sia, and then just behind them, remember, you had Warren Whiteley, you've got Nizam Carr, Jaco Creel, Opa. I never got the chance to coach Arnold Bota through injury. Lapis, there's a huge amount of talent in South Africa, and it's just obviously Marcel Cassia's injury has been a real shocker for the Sharks, because he was obviously heading up the stats, and I don't really think I can put my finger on one player. You've then got Bismarck, you've got Adrian Strauss, you've got all the rest of the players. So I think the big thing for me was if you can walk away having developed those traits in a number of players instead of just a back rower, that's where I was happy. So I couldn't actually put my finger on one. I think all the players at the end of the day fronted up, and they were the boys that trained hard and made a difference.
That was way too diplomatic to be Richie Gray.
He's one.
Is he started with the two fly-offs?
I think he was trying to get himself out of trouble there. Mr. Gray, absolute pleasure having you on TMO. Can't wait until you get back into South Africa. Hopefully we'll get you in the studio as well, and you can share some of those experiences, especially in the US. I think that's going to be phenomenal and a wonderful opportunity.
Now listen guys, it's been a pleasure, and it's funny, it always comes to an end very quickly, and pretty much once we played that third, fourth playoff, everybody split, players went all over Europe and all over the world, and so, just for myself, I had a phenomenal 3 years in South Africa. I'm sure I'll be back again, and, for a foreign coach, remember, that somebody once said to me, you'll last about 6 weeks here. So the last 3 years, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, he's not that foreign. He really loves his prize. That's Richie Gray. Thank you so much.
Cheers,
Thank you, Richie.
Richie.
Cheers, Richie. Go well.
Cheers.
Cheers.